Hello students, today we are going to start chapter 5 from your supplementary reading, and that is Moments. Now chapter 5 is about the Happy Prince, written by Oscar Wilde. What is he talking about, the Happy Prince? And was the prince really happy? So let's begin and study what happens to the prince and why he was happy or was not happy. The Happy Prince was a beautiful statue. He was covered with gold. He had sapphires for eyes and a ruby in his sword. Why did he want to part with all the gold that he had and his precious stones? So students, here we are talking about Happy Prince. Right now we are talking about the statue. And what did he have? He had the stones. What were the precious stones? Sapphire and ruby. Now ruby and sapphire. Sapphire is like a bright blue precious stone, where there is a ruby is like a dark red precious stone. Okay, so the statue of the Happy Prince was very beautiful because it was covered with gold. And what did it have? It had sapphire for his eyes and ruby in his sword. But then he wanted to give that away. Why did he want to give away those precious stones? So let's begin. High above the city on a wall, on a tall column, stood the statue of the Happy Prince. He was gilded all over with thin leaves of fine gold. For eyes he had two bright sapphires, and a large red ruby glowed on his sword hilt. Now, students, what is the meaning of hilt over here? The meaning of hilt is handle, H-A-N-D-L-E, handle. And so, high above the city in a tall column. Column over here is a pillar. So, on the pillar stood the statue of a Happy Prince. And he was gilded, he was coated, or there was some gold plated coating was done all over his statue, fully gold plated. And so therefore he had what? He was stood of the statue of the Happy Prince. He was gilded all over with thin leaves of fine gold. And for his eyes he had two bright sapphires. I just explained you the meaning of sapphire. And a large red ruby glowed on his sword hilt. Now, what is that? The meaning of glowed over here was also shining over there. With these two precious stones, it was shining. Now, what happens? But one night, there flew over the city a little swallow. His friends had gone away to Egypt 6 weeks before, but he had stayed behind. Then he decided to go to Egypt too. So, you know that the swallow is the name of a bird. And so, this bird remained behind. His other fellow birds, his companions, had gone away. Where did they go away? They had gone to Egypt. And how many days had passed? They had gone away to Egypt 6 weeks before, or 6 weeks ago. So 6 weeks before, they had gone to Egypt. But he had stayed behind. Who has stayed behind? This swallow had stayed behind. Then he decided to go to Egypt too. All day long he flew. He flew where? He flew where? He flew where? He decided to begin little later on. But then he decides to stay somewhere there. He stayed behind. All day long he flew. And at night time he arrived at the city. So when he arrives in the city, that beautiful city, it was what time, what hour of the day? It was a night time. Where shall I put up? He said. I hope the town has made preparations. So he is saying that where should I stay? Where should I put up? Where should I have my night now? And so he decides to, because he is left behind and he wanted to remain there, he decides to go little later on. So where shall I put up? He said, I hope the town has made some preparations. So he knows that surely how much place the bird requires. So he decides to stay somewhere there in the city. Then He saw the statue on a tall column, on a tall pillar. He saw this statue of whom? The happy prince. I will put up there, he cried. So he was happy because he could see. So he says that I will put up there. It is a fine position with plenty of fresh air. So he alighted just between the feet of the happy prince. So what did he? He alighted, he landed. He came down to where? Where the happy prince was. Over here, what is the meaning of position? Position over here is a place. So it is a fine position. It is a fine place. And what was the fine place? The statue of the happy prince. So he alighted. He came down. He landed just between the feet of the happy prince. So you can see the statue of the happy prince over here. He alights. He lands over there in between the feet of the happy prince. I have a golden bedroom, he said softly to himself as he looked around. So what does he say? I have a golden bedroom, because the statue was gold plated. And so he says, I have a golden bedroom. How lucky I am. I'm going to put up my night. For the night I'm going to put up over here. So he said just that to himself. Then what happens? Come to the next page, students. And he prepared to go to sleep. But just as he was putting his head under his wing, a large drop of water fell on him. What a curious thing, he cried. There is not a single cloud in the sky. The stars are quite clear and bright, and yet it is raining. So what is he saying that? He says that a drop of water falling on him. So when the drop of water fell on him, he says, from where is it coming? A curious thing to know. And the sky is very clear. There is not a single cloud. So what is it happening? Then another drop fell. So the another drop also falls on him. What is the use of a statue if it cannot keep the rain off? He said, I must look for a good chimney pot. And he determined to fly away. But before he had opened his wings, a third drop fell. And he looked up and saw, what did he see? So what is that? One after the other, 1, 2 and 3 drops fall on him. Drops from where? It wasn't raining. Neither was the statue wet. So then from where is it coming? He is wondering, from where is it? But then he realizes it wasn't the sky or it wasn't raining. What is the use of a statue if it cannot keep the rain off? He said, I must look for a good chimney pot. And he determined to fly away. So as he was ready to fly away, and he realizes the useless statue because it is not even keeping a small bird away from the rain. And so, but before he had opened his wings, a third drop fell. When the third drop falls on him, he looks up and he saw, what did he see? So what is he seeing? The eyes of the happy prince were filled with tears, and tears were running down his golden cheeks. So the eyes were filled with tears and the tears were running from his golden cheeks. His face was so beautiful in the moonlight that the little swallow was filled with pity. Who are you? He said. Who are you? He said, I am the happy prince. So why it is said moonlight? Because it was in the night. And tears were running from the golden cheeks. Why golden cheeks, students? Because the statue was plated with gold. Okay? It was coated with gold, and so therefore the tears were running from there. Who are you? He said. I am the happy prince. So who questions? Who are you? The swallow, little swallow is asking, who are you? And he says, I am a happy prince. Why are you weeping then? As a swallow. You have quite drenched me. So the swallow is saying, you have quite drenched me. You have made me wet. The meaning of drench over here is, I am wet now. So he says that who are you? And you have drenched me. When I was alive and had a human heart, answered the statue, I did not know what tears were, for I lived in the palace where sorrow is not allowed to enter. So when I was a prince, when I was alive, I was not the sorrow, the sadness did not come into my life. Sorrow was not allowed to enter. My countries called me the happy prince, and happy indeed I was. I was really very happy. The people of my country, they call me happy. So I lived, and so I died. And now that I am dead, they have set me up here so high that I can see the ugliness and all the misery of my city. And though my heart is made of lead, yet I cannot choose but weep. So he's saying, why is he weeping? He says, when I was young, I enjoyed my life and there was a lot of happiness. Sorrow was not allowed to enter my house, but in my palace, I was really happy indeed. But then, when I died, I realized I am dead, and I can, as I am set up over here high above, I can see the ugliness and the misery of my city. And I thought, my heart is made of lead. Lead is a metal over here. Yet I cannot choose but weep. Though it is made of metal, still I can weep. And why is it? Now, students, we are going to stop over here. We will see why the prince was crying, why he was weeping. We will see it in the next part. We are going to stop over here.